Oh, where you watch? Look where you watch. Know where you watch. Choose the right thing to watch. And this enough to watch. Sticky Stucky Sweet TV with Keith Gargan, Facebook and YouTube. And that enough to watch. The movie star fly take off from Palpatine TV said that. Boom!
A big sound, a play a big tune.
Ja Holy Emmanuel, I woy. Ja Gideon, I'm a Gideon. The Gideon, I'm a Gideon. The Gideon, I'm a Gideon. Well, Gideon go busting out them head again. So much oppression poor people face right now. Them crying out for freedom. Them crying out for free speech. Then said them want to stand up like them black liberators, like Malcolm X and Martin Luther and the ancient monarchy where come pave the way, sir. Free up black people from me tear down them fence, yeah. Gideon, I'm a Gideon. The Gideon, I'm a Gideon. The Gideon, I'm a Gideon, well, the Gideon go busting out them head. I listen, I the power of the Trinity. Give us the teaching of His Majesty, and we know war, not every...
Blue, Mr. Gargan, blue. Blue till me dance up me toe.
This is Sticky Stucky Sweet TV with Keith Gargan. Good, healthy food with the X Factor. So give it a like, share, subscribe, and touch up that notification bell. And that is it. Look at that.
A corrupt government cannot liberate the people. If the head of the stream is corrupt, the entire river will be also. I do not support corruption. Corruption takes money away from children's education. It deprives hospitals of basic necessities. It means that roads are not fixed. Corruption deepens inequality. It siphons off taxpayers' money to make a few cronies richer with the political connections instead of benefiting the people. This government has been doing everything it can to weaken and undermine the Integrity Commission, which is an institution that I designed as Minister of Justice and brought the legislation to Parliament to fight corruption in this country. I have said it before and I will tell you again. Jamaica cannot move forward without a government built on integrity that embraces principles of good governance in this country.
and running, up and gunning. Sticky Stucky Sweet TV, Keith Gargan. Cassava, Passava, mind over matter. Up and running, up and gunning. When I kind of feel tired still, but I said, sure, might as well me dissect that video because catch me eye. Because I see where Dayton Campbell leave them stunned today. And them try everything. And Dayton put them in them place, especially like a blood clot, whatever, when you E-Rai. But you know, sometimes I look on them people, you know, on the government bench, you know, you can't see them really, I don't know, but them people, them really know so well then the Prime Minister do something wrong, you know. But them catch, you know, one blood clot, they never trap or whatever. Because, you know, sometimes, you know, you come in like now, you have people who join gang, you know, and get influence and them can't come out of it, you know. Else, you know, go happen to them, you know. And I saw them blood clot Labour MP, Labour MP and minister really get catch up in our net. Andrew Wallace hold them in a net and them can't, cause anyone, here, I'm tell you something, you know, everybody have everybody's secret, you know, because the whole of them are trap big, you know. The whole of them get rich, you know. If you look on Rhoda Crawford face, you can see she had do something wrong, you know. But, you know, free money is sweet. Likes is sweet. And them know, so them do the rascal Jamaican people them wrong. And, you know, I mean, hear in this rascal session, I mean, you nobody come out and condemn the police, you know. No? On both sides, you know. And this is how it will get better. If England this happen, or America, or any civilized country, minister come out and definitely straightforward condemn what the police do. Them not go pretty up nothing and attack something, but them not really, because them supposed to come out and say, well then, because the evidence them see it. But none of the women them on the JLP side, Andrew Wallace said nothing about it. Yeah, I tell you, you know. Look on Rhoda Crawford face. Eh? You look on Rhoda Crawford face. So I can drop her face. Look on Rhoda Crawford face. You can't see she blood clot. No, she do something wrong, you know. You can't see the rascal body language. All Andrew Wallace that talk and she a hear, and especially, you know, she's Andrew Wallace half, you know. So she know what go on. She know she do something wrong. But they will do it because I'm a part of the blood clot Babylon system. Because them know them are rip off the Jamaican people them. But everybody do it. All the whole bag like what's your name? Sometimes what's your name, man? This whole she's Babsy Grange me attack, yeah. That woman with a circle up on her nose. The old crocodile that, you know. That woman is supposed to go to politics long time and I relax. And she's still in there do evil. Boy, oh boy, she's still in there do evil. Anyway, I don't want blood clot him talk about this. I'm going to just play the video from this stinking Andrew Wallace attack. When I make no fucking sense. To be truthful. Don't make no rascal sense at all. But you know, we hear what I must say.
Are not able to fully afford the cost of housing, but they may need some form of subsidized housing solutions, low-income housing solutions, and persons who may be looking to improve their housing stock. We believe 150,000 solutions. So whether it is a total house or access to land, that is what we would need. Presently, if we had all the funds today to build 150,000 houses, we could not do it. We don't have the contractors who can contract at scale. We now don't have an enterprise level contractor in the country who could.
You watch how Macho Samuda, I look on him and I draw him hand him on him lip. Because I must lie, I tell you, them all night together, you know. Them know them do the country dishonestly, you know. And boy, right you know, their body language really, I give them way, man. I give them way. The whole Rastler bench look guilty. And them know them guilty of doing something really wrong to the country when them come in here to serve and protect and beg the people on board. And them know them now go deliver. So you look on fucking brother Tukuma, Matthew Samuda. Look on the Prime Minister. Right time I remember tell lie, you know. Cause them now go can deliver. Yo. Rhoda Crawford are the same thing. The whole of them in a somber mood. Because every day them come over them tell a lie and tell a lie. And make this man lead them like a clang. And I lead them down the blood pit of hell. Because them know, but then again, you know me to say already, say, at the same JLP, them a go Rastler come out on him, you know. And them a come out, some big Rastler guns in the JLP, will come out on him. I mean, I say, look at that. 1 by 1, 2 by 2, don't worry.
Build 10,000 houses over the next.
All Andrew Wallace himself look nervous. Because I know say, I don't know.
Year. And that is a major issue of the supply side constraints that face the housing market. Presently, the NHT has been tasked with developing 40,000, we say 42,000 housing solutions. Right now, Mr.
Every blood clot, their peer promises, brother, coming in from 2016, you know. Peer promise. And nothing to deliver. Same thing him come back and recycle. How much house them build since them in a power? Not him 700 house, you know. When him say was build thousands of house. And him come back with the same trickery again. Everything Andrew say before, what the people are realize, this brother here, him just stand up and bare face lie because him not nothing else to do besides come and tell the same thing over and over. But the only thing him do, him recycle it.
Speaker, in terms of the NHT's performance, the NHT has, at the end of 2025, somewhere in the region of about 31,540 housing starts going back from 2016. So, Mr. Speaker, since this administration,
I pick him a pick figure out of the year, you know. Because pure line I tell you so. Even though building houses, the only housing bill is the fucking uptown housing where poor people can't buy. And that him turn the NHC fucking housing association, you know. We designed for poor people. Because you see my baffle, let's a baffle and a waffle. Pure fuck him attack. He must recycle the same thing when him say over and over, day in and day out. You can see himself look nervous. The whole of them in our somber mood right there, so.
that is the number of housing units that we have started.
You matter about started. Even like him see him can't talk, see him recycle it and come again now. Started now. We are talking about how much him bill already since fucking 10 years. He must have restarted. The man are recycling now one different way again, you know. And you're the Rastler. The only thing them fucking members can do is beat bench, you know. Because that them get pay for thief and fucking beat bench to prop up the government, keep the government up. And make him feel good like him attack something with sense. And them know them are the blood clot, them are deceive. Them are deceive the Jamaican people. But you see, when they catch up on them the real way, fire that mus tail, them think of blood clot, cool breeze. Don't worry.
In terms of housing completions, 21,166. These figures may need some updating because I'm not giving you up to March of this year.
Boy, a line of blood clot.
In terms of mortgages, the NHD, Mr. Speaker, would have, since 2016, issued 67,249,000 mortgages. So while $11.4 billion, Mr. Speaker, is significant, if you were to total up the housing expenditure on mortgages, housing starts, and housing completed, you'd be looking at $343 billion expended by the NHD on housing. To make the point even clearer, Mr. Speaker, the highest level of expenditure under the PNP administration in 2012 was $24.3 billion. That's the highest level of expenditure. $24.3 billion.
Spin things.
Mr. Speaker,
spinning things. Lie the fuck.
In 2018, this administration, under the NHD, under this administration, spent $28.43 billion. In 2019, $37.1 billion. In 2020, $41.57 billion. In 2021, $48.2 billion. In 2022, $46.51 billion. In 2023, $45.94 billion. In 2024, $30.24 billion.
So nobody knows see that. Nobody knows see what I must say. You know. Nobody knows see what I must say. Because the amount of people show them contribution, I can't get. Well, I tell this brother, you really dry eye lie, you know. For your prime minister, you know. And this is what I try to say. The media, them now rascal, bring him to books. So he can get away with everything. The guy is a pick figure out of the air. And write on some things and spin it. A spin it in a peer, mix up and blend them a deal with. No facts is there. Anyway, we have a year how Dayton Campbell make him stunt and mash him up. Mash down everything he must say.
And in 2025, this is up to the 31st of March, 2025, $24.4 billion. So, I therefore want to dispel this argument that is being purveyed in the public domain that the government taking $11.4 billion from the NHD is somehow depriving the NHD of expenditure. Every year since 2018, the NHD's expenditure has been increasing substantially and at points have doubled what was spent under the PNP administration. So these are matters that we must concern. So in summary, I don't need to go further than that point that I've made. The administration is not taking the funds from the NHD for reasons that are not solid and sound reasons. We must preserve the fiscal integrity of the government's operations. And this fiscal integrity is something that benefits every Jamaican. And I want you to think of it this way. if we didn't have the $11.4 billion from the NHD, it would have to come from somewhere else. Likely more taxes.
Spin.
Second point, Mr. Speaker, there is no windfall from the government from the present geopolitical situation with oil prices. The leader of the opposition is suggesting that somehow we are collecting more taxes on oil, on fuel. Madam Speaker, Mr. Speaker, I want to be absolutely clear that we haven't said too much about this situation, but the government has essentially taken steps that cushion the public from the full impact of the increases in oil prices. And that comes at a cost that is likely to be far greater than any revenues that come from the SET on fuel. So there is no argument that is saying that the government is getting a windfall and therefore we don't need to take the funds from the NHD. So those are some points, Mr. Speaker, that I think it is important that the public considers when they pronounce their judgment on the government's action in taking the funds from the NHD. It is not something that we want to do, it's not something that we do lightly, it is something that is imperative that it be done. And we, like every other Jamaican, longs for the day when we will not have to take the funds from the NHD. That will happen as the right decisions that we are making today inure to the growth of our country. Decisions like the National Reconstruction and Resilience Authority, which will fast-track growth and development in this country, because that is the only way, Mr. Speaker, to increase revenues, growth, jobs, income for the people of Jamaica. May it please you, Mr. Speaker.
Member from Portland Eastern.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would have heard from the persons before me, the members before me. But, Mr. Speaker, I only rise because of my concern that the memorandum of objectives and reasons, of objects and reasons is not, it certainly isn't reflecting what I'm hearing from the Prime Minister. It is not reflecting what I heard from the Finance Minister, and it certainly is not reflecting from the Minister of Water and Environment, respectfully. So one of the key things is that I'm pointing to the memorandum of objects and reasons, and it says that the Section 3 of the Act provided that this would continue until the 31st of March 2026 and then expire. So there was an expectation that the pull down, there would have been an expiration date. The discontinuation of these annual contributions will result in a significant fall off in government revenue. It goes on to say that the government's economic program relies on these transfers to fund some expenditures in the national budget, without which expenditure would require reduction or a tax package tabled to cover the shortfall. Now, Mr. Speaker, I will say this. I am sure that the Prime Minister will agree. The danger is the thought of this being an indefinite exercise. Now, I'm saying this in the context that the ordinary Jamaican, his or her expectation is to own a piece of the rock, a piece of Jamaica. Cannot put it any simpler. There is an aspect of this 11.4 billion that the ordinary man will never appreciate or come to terms with. And that is what this conversation is about. There are persons who have a desire, who when qualified, only wants to get the pull down, their share. Not that the government will provide the housing, but the ability to be able to purchase the land and the ability to build that house. Now, there are persons who are not getting the services from NHT for many other reasons. The outsourcing, the mortgage is not coming from NHT, the requirement, the clogs, the fetters that would make it impossible for them to be able to own a home currently. Now, one has to look at the aspect that the necessity has not been explained. For instance, we're hearing that because of Melissa, this is now a requirement. Now, I will say this, it's not reflected in the memorandum of objects and reason. Not one line or sentence that Melissa is one of the reasons. No, because what I'm saying is there must be justification for what is an indefinite extension for, and I would not want to be the bearer of bad news. I am not a prophet, but to say, if we experience a hurricane this year, and next year, and the year after, then what is being said from these explanations is that there will always be a need for pull down. That is why when the opposition leader stood today and said, perhaps if the extension were for a year, possibly the conversation could take place. Because we have to, we definitely, respectfully, and I only ask that the contribution is for the people. That's all I'm saying. The contribution that I'm making is for consideration for the ordinary Jamaican to come to terms with the fact that when they hear that the object and purpose of the NHT is so the common man can own a home. And when one puts it highfalutin or at a place where the common man cannot appreciate, then we have to have the conversation. And so, if I have to use the Prime Minister's words, he said the government is not utilizing resources from the NHT for purposes that are not of national importance. But this today, the Finance Minister says, is to cover expenses. Doesn't say what the national importance is. Hold on. In a language that the common man can understand. And listen. I am quoting. Hear me. It's fine. You know, Mr. Speaker, there is a particular standing orders that you can use if I'm being interrupted or feel as if I'm being bullied. But I would never dare do that, but to say that if I would be allowed to speak for persons who cannot speak in this House, please permit me to do so. That is all I'm asking. There has to be some form of specific language that we can point to so that the ordinary man can appreciate what we are talking about national importance. In 1993, don't know how old I was at that time, but the then Prime Minister Pattison had pulled down on the NHT for educational purposes. It was quite specific, and I'm sure everybody can agree where that is concerned. When one looks at the history and why the pull down took place in 2013, the country was at an impasse and under strict regulation under the IMF. If I'm incorrect, I stand corrected. I am here to learn. Now, when that time has expired, we have seen where the pull down took place up until 2026. I am simply saying, when an additional 5 years is tacked on to it, it starts to appear that this is something that is going to be indefinite. Yes? Oh, where is the energy? Where is the energy minister? Where you need him? One would think we'd never lose light. Yes, there it goes. All right. But here, where's the member from West Portland? We just lost light. But anyway, respectfully, Mr. Speaker, all I'm saying is where one looks at the memorandum of objects and reason, legally, the reasons for the pull down or the justification will not be consensus ad idem with what is being asked. Now, having said that, perhaps, and I will only say, Mr. Speaker, perhaps the finance minister, the prime minister, the government, the cabinet can consider a revisiting in terms of the pull down to be of a shorter term. Perhaps there is always room for negotiation, if not some form of explanation so the people can understand. And it is for those reasons why at this juncture, I am painstakingly saying because it was never created for this type of expenditure, in the context that when the Prime Minister says we would have to pull from somewhere, one can recall the Norman Manley International Airport future earnings. Same for the Sangsters Airport. And if I'm to understand what I'm hearing or what the common man hears is, nowhere no left who we take money from. And so NHT, we're going to have to take from NHT. Yeah, that is actually what the message that is being sent. And so for those reasons, Mr. Speaker, and only those reasons, the absence of a proper reason linking Melissa, in the absence of the memorandum of objects and reasons stating clearly what is the national importance of pulling down for an additional 5 years, I cannot respectfully support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Member from St. James West Central.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support the bill for plain and simple reason. Plain and simple reason. It makes no sense to have monies in the rest of government and central government is broke. Makes no sense. So the member from Portland asked about a reason. The memorandum actually gives the reason. So fiscal consolidation is a public financing strategy, and it is used to address broader financial goals. And if the choice is between raising taxes and putting a greater burden on the backs of Jamaicans at this time, or using monies in the rest of government to ensure that government can finance what needs to be financed, then I think the bill is worth supporting. It is important to remember that not so long ago, a lawsuit was brought to examine the nature of the trust because of the use of the word trust. And that judgment brought a lot of clarity. Choice is not always between good and bad, better and worse, or good and better. So for me, at this time, with everything that is happening in the nation, if the rest of government has money that can be used responsibly and well for fiscal consolidation, as opposed to heaping tax burden on the backs of Jamaicans when they are trying to recover, get back on their feet, I believe this is a better choice, and the bill should be supported.
Member from Eastern Westmoreland.
You're not going to love it. You're not going to love it. You're not going to love it. You're not gonna... Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. I sat, Mr. Speaker, and I wasn't necessarily minded to say anything. However, when I listened to the blatant hypocrisy that was coming from that side, it compelled me to my feet to make a contribution to this bill. Now, if we're listening to this conversation, the first thing that we're hearing is that if we did not do this, we would have to increase taxes. But several times, the members on this side, including the Prime Minister himself, has gone out and said that we increased taxes on the backs of the people in our previous administration, and he himself said that this was a raid on the NHT. And he said that these funds should be ring-fenced. He said that in the House, and he said that on national programs. No. The point is being made that, yes, there is a disaster. No. There was a natural disaster in 2025, Hurricane Melissa. But there was a man-made disaster in the JLP administration between 2007 to 2011. Because when there was the international crisis, the depression, their Minister of Finance said that it would benefit Jamaica. That's what he said. They went on to then abandon the IMF agreement. And it is because of those reasons that we were placed in a position that we had to draw down on the funds from the NHT. To know and make the very point that because you have a disaster, you now can draw down on it when you took the opposite position a few years ago, cannot just be allowed to pass as if it is nothing. The member from North East St. Ann is making the point that it is because of fiscal responsibility and the position that we are in. The debt to GDP of Jamaica at that time was over 140%. The debt to GDP now is less than 100%. How is it that they complained at that time when the debt to GDP was over 140 to say that this was irresponsible and should not be done? But now when the debt to GDP is down way less than 100, all of a sudden it is now the fiscal responsibility to do. That level of hypocrisy cannot be allowed to stand. The next point that is being made, that, oh, this is because of Melissa. This has been going on for 10 long years. Melissa was 2025. This has been going on from 2016. So the government cannot be allowed to just come to the parliament and to totally ignore the total tribal statements that they made before, unpatriotic statements when they placed the country in a precarious position and we had to beg to restore Jamaica's reputation. They can't come now to ignore that and suggest that all of a sudden what they are doing is the responsible thing. They are being hypocritical. Now, Mr. Speaker, I heard a few things being said here today. The Prime Minister said that they're not ignoring the law. Who was ignoring the law back then when he was carried on? I beg your kind pardon. I beg your kind pardon. I beg your kind pardon. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker. No. The Prime Minister said that the leader of opposition is willing to put the country at risk because of ego. What was the leader of opposition in 2013 doing when he was opposing here, when he was supporting court action against it, when he was doing everything to ensure that we could not withdraw the funds from NHT, and at that time the debt to GDP was much worse than what it is now? Was it ego that he was putting the country at risk for them? Was he putting the country at risk for ego at that time? That level of hypocrisy, PM, is palpable. Palpable. No. I learned that in medical school in 2003, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now, the Prime Minister went on to say that we do not have a demand problem. A whole heap of people want houses. As a matter of fact, 150,000. I am paraphrasing for the member there that is not familiar with the English language. I am not yielding for that. The essence of the Prime Minister's point is that we do not have a demand problem. There is no point of order.
Member,
there is no point of order.
Member,
there is no point of order.
Member, you cannot determine that. It's not for you to determine.
There is no, what is
it's
the
not
point
for
of
you
order
to
that you're
determine.
rising at?
Allow me to hear. It's not for you to determine.
What is the...
Member, your point of order.
Yeah.
Not only is the member misleading the House, he's factually incorrect. The Prime Minister never said that there was not a demand problem. What the Prime Minister said is that even if we wanted to spend the over $100 billion that were needed to spend to build houses, we did not have the capacity to do it. So he's not being factually correct in saying that the Prime Minister said there wasn't a demand problem. So he's misleading the House.
Member, you can now take back the floor.
Out of order.
You're telling me that you're taking a point of order and a point of order. No, no, no. Continue with the presentation.
Mr. Speaker, the member is not listening to his leader because the Prime Minister made the point in trying to position the argument in a basic economic principle of demand and supply. He said that Jamaica does not have a demand problem. There's a need for 150,000 houses. Jamaica has a supply problem. That is what he said. So that member should listen to the Prime Minister when he's speaking. No, I am saying if there is a supply problem where we are short 150,000 houses, who could help to increase that supply to the market? Who? If we make an intelligent guess, could the National Housing Trust actually play a role in putting those, in increasing those supply to the market? Absolutely yes is the answer. No. The Prime Minister went on to say, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister went on to say that there are issues, and the member from North East Centre said it, there are issues that would cause them not to be able to build the houses. One, land issues. That is why, in the last election campaign, we said that we would decrease the period of time for you to own government land from 60 years to 25 years so that we will put land in possession of the people so that they could build on their own lands. Because it's not all of the construction has to come from government. People can build on their own lands if they are given those lands. Right? And the members opposite confuse the public in saying, here goes the PNP, they want to take away your land. Not telling the public that the current time for private land is actually 12 years. And that the period being proposed by the opposition was twice the period for the private land, and it was in relation to government-owned land. Mystery. Mischief. Mischief. Right? And then come to pretend as if they are brand new. They come now, Mr. Speaker, to pretend as if they are brand new. And I am not finished, you know, Mr. Speaker. Because the Prime Minister went on to say, even if we had all the money, we still couldn't build the houses because we don't have the contractors. But a few weeks ago, Mr. Speaker, I was told here that NARA would fix all of these problems. So I want to know now, how is it that even with all of the money, we can't rebuild the houses for the people down in eastern Westmoreland? How is it that we still cannot build the houses for the people in eastern Westmoreland. No. You had your chance. You had your chance. No, you had your chance. I listened to you. You had your chance. I listened to you. No. Mr. Speaker, there are some persons who contribute to the National Housing Trust. And when they make their contribution, Mr. Speaker, and they apply, they tell them that they do not qualify. Well, Mr. Speaker, in Jamaica, especially in rural Jamaica when we're growing up, and if you're growing up in poverty, we have a thing named partner. And the basic rule of partner, comrade, forgive me. Member, the basic rule, no, that would be a misnomer. The member from Southwest Dayton, the basic rule of partner is that if you throw a hand, you must get a draw. If you throw a hand, you must get a draw. It's a basic rule of the partner system. Therefore, seeing that the contribution to the NHT is mandatory, it is mandatory. Persons who are employed are not asked to make the contribution. It is mandatory. It is taken out of their salaries automatically. And if they make that mandatory contribution, every single contributor to the NHT should stand to get a benefit from the NHT. So, Mr. Speaker, when you have constituencies like Western Westmoreland, Central Westmoreland, Eastern and Western Hanover, South St. James, Northeast St. Elizabeth, even Southwest St. Elizabeth, because some of the members here can't talk for their constituency, you know. They can't speak up. Northwest St. Elizabeth and other places, where the devastation is so severe. You have members there that are making contribution and don't stand to get a benefit. I work in a hospital. As a doctor, I stand to get a benefit from NHT, and when the porter goes to apply, he's told that he's not qualified. So the doctor who earns more and is in a better position qualifies, but the porter who is at the lower end is the one that doesn't qualify to get a benefit. Meaning that we would be using the poorer people to subsidize the richer people in the system. That cannot continue to operate in that way. And that is a fact. Any member here that doesn't know that that is happening is not on the ground in their constituency. No. These members of my constituency, whose houses have been destroyed, you know what we were told, Mr. Speaker? You know what we were told? We were told that over 1,000 residents from Eastern Westmoreland still cannot get electricity. And we were told that 40% of that, over 400 people, are not in a position to receive it because their homes have been totally destroyed. I am saying, if there is a surplus of funds within the National Housing Trust, and there is a deficit of housing in the country, if you want to do other things, let me say I'm not commenting on that right now, others will, but I'm commenting on the housing part of it. How is it that there is a surplus of funds within an agency that is supposed to be dealing with housing? We have our brothers and sisters suffering out there with tarpaulin over their houses. People in the tourism sector who get 6 pieces of wood, 6 pieces of zinc, 3 bag of nail, and don't get nothing else. How is it that we are comfortable with those persons in that precarious position, and we have a surplus that we decide that we are going to use it for budgetary support? I am not spreading any misinformation. I am speaking of a presentation that I saw, and Minister, please. Please. Please, Minister, please. Please.
Everyone is a leader.
Minister, please. The issue, Mr. Speaker, I just want you to stop for a second. And I want you to think that these persons, because we're saying this is because of Melissa, you know, and that has been my fundamental problem here, you know, with the NARA legislation and with this. There are 15 minutes remaining on the clock, man. Right? It has been my fundamental problem. That when a Category 5 hurricane makes landfall in a constituency, and that constituency, the entire constituency suffers damage from a Category 5. It did not break in Eastern Westmoreland. The entire constituency of Eastern Westmoreland suffered from a Category 5 hurricane. That is the reason why everybody else is celebrating that they have electricity fully restored, but I have 400 people who don't even qualify to get it restored because there's no building to put it on. That is the reason. When I come here, I am talking on behalf. What do you mean wrap up when I have 14 minutes to go? There's the time. No, you're standing order, Mr. Speaker. Each member has 30 minutes to contribute. Each member has 30 minutes. There's the time. You can't be telling me to wrap up when I have 14 minutes on the clock. What is really going on here? What is really going on here? I am not here on my own behalf, you know, sir. I am here because of the privilege afforded to me by the people of Eastern Westmoreland. And had it been for you and other members there, I wouldn't be here. So when I come here, I'm not here to please you because you came there to campaign so that I wouldn't reach here. So I'm not here because of you. I am here despite of you. Right? So I am going to speak on behalf of my people who sent me here. Right? No. Huh? This is my third term in here, and it's your third. Don't fly past your nest. Don't fly past your nest. It's your third term in here. Right? Mr. Speaker, the people who have suffered from the damage of the hurricane that are still living on a tarpaulin, and I invite the members opposite to take a drive through the constituency of Eastern Westmoreland. Two times the PM has been there. 2 times. Right? Now, if you take a drive through the constituency of Eastern Westmoreland, approximately 40% of the houses still have tarpaulin on them. When I hear these grand things about how much we have recovered, I don't see it, you know. Because there are areas that I go to that still look like the day after the hurricane. It still looks like the day after the hurricane. You still have people that are living on a tarpaulin. You still have children that go to school, the lower grades Monday to Wednesday and the upper grade Thursday to Friday. That is the reality of what is taking place there. So when we are going to talk about the surplus that we have, and that no Actuarian has said to us that this will damage the financial position of the NHT, then why have we not taken a decision then to use some of those funds to ensure that we can restore dignity to the people of the constituency? But for the grace of God, it could have been any one of us. But for the grace of God, it could have been any one of us that would have suffered that damage. It is our duty and our responsibility to ensure that we do justice to those people who have suffered the damage. And so, Mr. Speaker, until the day when I hear of some meaningful assistance to the people of Eastern Westmoreland, I will never stop speaking.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Shut them up, cool them up. Punch some hole in them rascal hard.
Mr. Speaker, I'll be very brief. I'll be very, very brief. But let me say, Mr. Speaker, I had to make my contribution on this matter today because, Mr. Speaker, I've been member of Parliament for this is the 5th term for Western St. Andrew, and I have been continual. Too much noise, man. I've been consistently arguing for a housing relief program in my constituency, consistently, with no success. Mr. Speaker, if I were told today that this amendment was being sought to ensure that housing agencies like the HAJ, which is part of the housing solution in this country, is being considered as part of the funds from this project, then I would be assured that the mission continues about providing reasonable housing for people who need these housing. I've proposed housing programs. And the NHT, which has been invited to examine and to look at the housing program, have told me that they cannot participate in it because their survey says the persons do not qualify. Now, when we too much noise, man, too much noise. When the fact of the matter is that the demand for the houses are clear, palpable. And so, Mr. Speaker, when I look at the bill and the terms of the bill, I first of all want to agree with the member that the objects and reasons are very wide, and for those of us who are concerned that the housing trust be put back and that its mission be strengthened and refocused, are concerned that these resources is just a general raid and to use for general purposes. Important as that is, but I think the member before me spoke very clearly that when we were faced with IMF and the tremendous fiscal pressures, the challenges came that the money from NHD shouldn't be used. No, Mr. Speaker, what really is needed is we really need a proper dialogue on the NHD. That is really needed. We really needed shoring of all of the hypocrisy and all of that. We really need to have a proper discussion about the NHD. It cannot be that every time, and the language here makes it very concerning because it says this is just for general purposes, and the Prime Minister argues that the money is there, and someone else argues that if it wasn't there, where? And we'd have to impose taxes. Now, this government has demonstrated dexterity in coming up with some creative solution with forward sales of airports and all kinds of different things. And so, no, I don't mind anything. I'm simply saying, I am simply arguing the point. I am simply arguing the point. Come on, man. Come on, man. So, no, come on. Seven terms says a great deal. You don't get no 7th term by not saying anything. And you shut up yourself. You shut your mouth. Shut up your mouth. You don't want me to. Anyway. No, please. So, Mr. Speaker, my point is simply this. We have not had a proper conversation about NHT and the use of the resources of NHT. And if today what was here was a proper conversation, a consistent dialogue about the NHT and the use of those funds from the NHT, then I think someone like me who have real concerns about how we address the housing situation in an inner city constituency like Western St. Andrew will be very keen to understand that and to participate in that. Mr. Speaker, it cannot be that we're here talking about just a general relocation to avoid taxation when the object and mission of NHT is being, again, watered down. It's being watered down. We need, and those of us who are concerned about housing as a critical element of the human development and the human condition, want to understand that what we are focused on is addressing the issues of concern, that the NHT be restored to a place of primacy, that the resources there are not watered down, so that we have all kinds of arrangements and mortgages and all kinds of other arrangements that seeks to undermine and have the effect of undermining the strength and the clarity of NHT and its focus of providing houses for the Jamaican people. I am concerned, Mr. Speaker, and I expect that when the opposition leader says, had there been some discussion, we might have come to some arrangement. Because those of us who are concerned about energy, and I think properly so, need to know that this is not an open-ended, and we just use them. And the reason why the debate, the negotiation and discussion wasn't had is because we have the numbers on the side. So if you have your number on your side and you're going to pass it anyway, well, why the conversation? You said people vote in as majority government. You don't need a conversation. You don't need a conversation. So what support you need from the opposition at this point? What support do you need from the opposition at this point? Mr. Speaker, we have to be much more intentional about this. We have to be much more serious about this because you have a statutory institution that is being cannibalized in important ways. We need to refocus the debate on the NHT, and to make sure that we continue to have an agenda and a mission to provide housing for those who need it, including contributors, but more than contributors, those who need housing in Jamaica. And if this were the bill, I would be supporting it. This is not the bill that requires our support. They have the majority to support this bill for general purposes, and so let them vote for this. I will not be voting for this.
Member from St. Catherine North. Western.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I would be displeased if the citizens of St. Catherine North Western would have been confused by the suggestion that I am now in St. Catherine North. And understanding the quip by the opposition side or the other side of how often I move, I want it to be clear that I still remain in St. Catherine North Western and have not insisted on moving my fellow in St. Catherine North. But notwithstanding, there is a Bible verse that came to mind. That said, even the birds have their nest and the fox have their den. In that case, it says, but the Son of Man had nowhere to lay his head. It is not in the exact form, but it does capture our reality as a country. That there are many human beings that have been denied one of the most basic needs of having shelter over their head. Indeed, I read recently in the newspaper that over 50% of Jamaicans had indicated that their intent in the next few years is to migrate from Jamaica. Indeed, I have always had a concern of a person being termed a squatter in the only country that cannot deport him. If it is you have no place in the only place that cannot ask you to leave, there is a need for those in charge of policy to be more committed to shelter and housing moving forward. Now, the government, I'm coming to that. The government has gained great political value from trumpeting the argument, no new taxes, and in seeking to cover the natural expenses of government. And that was very important to be highlighted by Member Fort, Malahu Fort from St. James. Is it Northwestern? West Central, who indicated that government had expenses and that there shouldn't be a space with funds available that government refused to use. There is an important explanation that must be highlighted, that no one on this side is asking for the non-use of available funds. Indeed, we're asking for the purposive use, to use those funds for a purpose that we on this side believe is important. It therefore must be highlighted if those on the other side are not of an equal commitment to solving the crisis of housing that we face. That crisis can be captured in over 600,000 being perceived and defined as squatters. And it extends itself to over 150,000 who wants but can't get. You see, when it was highlighted that there is no demand problem, nobody needs to say that the Prime Minister's actual words, in quotation, verbatim, was that there is no demand problem. But if it is that you have over 150,000 demanders who cannot access true supply, then there is no demand problem. There is, however, a supply problem. When we speak to the funds available to NHT, the question that first should be asked is if there are any systems that NHT can facilitate to help to reduce the supply problem. Therefore, we would look at the access to capital. Can NHT give greater access to capital? We would not have been in any form of dissent if NHT had concocted a method of giving greater access to capital. The second component is that we need an active and capable labor force. One of the greatest shortage in construction is an active and capable labor force. We sell the notion of 3% unemployment without indicating to the public that it doesn't include the 727,000 Jamaicans who have given up on finding work, refused to engage, and almost over 100,000 more who are underemployed. Just 2 days, 1 hour for the week, counted as employed. So if there was a design to increase the competence of the labor force, whether through working with heart or otherwise to create a construction corps that would eventually be able to build more houses, practical experience on the job, right? Learning from others, certifying those who learn from them, uncle. If you were partnering with heart, there would have been no objection on this side. Natural resource through land. A lot of the people who can't even get a start, who are being perceived as squatters, is because they can't access land. If there was a strategy, and I don't know how JLP, the government side, all of a sudden start to speak to, oh, that was your idea. You have never shown a reservation to stealing ideas in the entire life. So those that are good, the Prime Minister indicated that he was the best baby father. And if any good idea is there, he would take it. How can access to land not be perceived as a good idea? But in addition, we come into that. In addition, we also heard the leader suggest the time that is being proposed. Because there was before Melissa 10 years that this government consisted and continued to raid the band. And in raiding the band, sold a lie that there was no new burden on the people. Yet you're taking the resources of the people. The difference between a trust and a tax is that in a trust, it is held on your behalf. In a tax, it is removed and used as the government sees fit. And so if the government sees fit to pay wages, he does so. If they see fit to print all these things that has been printed here for a speech that can be seen, will be emailed to us later, it is going to be done in the same way. If they see fit to do whatever whims and fancy come to mind, it is not held on behalf of the people. So, as the member from Eastern Westmoreland indicate, that as is being operated, the NHT can be perceived as assisting the better off through the contributions of the worst off, as is being operated. But there is nothing within the rules of the NHT that disqualifies fixing that. I will tell you of one of the things that stuck with me when my father died when I was 15 years old. And I'll mention his name for the record, George Crawford. When he was sick, he said, I can only leave you advice. I'll never forget that. He said, me can't give you nothing but advice. As a little boy, them time, you know, why you nothing what your parents say. And so in talking to you, he must say, yo, me have nothing else to give other than advice. As I got older, I said to myself, how did he feel? That he couldn't leave me a house? He couldn't leave me a car? He never even drove a car. He said he had nothing but advice. And since then, I became committed to the concept of willing NHT to your children. Because at that time, I couldn't use his points. But he worked all his life, contributed to NHT, and died with it. If he could will that NHT to me, how much quicker would I have been able to own a piece of property? If that was a proposal here today, none of us would have been in resistance. Right? I don't assume come to that. But I knew that many a Jamaican who are on their deathbed wish they could sign a paper that I have nothing but than what I have worked for you. That can change within the age. If that was before us, no one would have been in opposition. Additionally, it is indeed a different conversation. But the more the money is taken, is the less we can afford the things we are discussing. It is not unlimited funds. So therefore, when the barn is ready, there's no fruits to deliver to the people. But because the law does not define the principle, I hear the member from St. James talking about the law has changed. The principle that was defined was that this was an important spend for the housing needs of the people. That's right. That's right. How much of us in here? I mean, most of us had an equal experience. Well, when you come off a bus, no one turn up in your yard because there's zinc fence and your dirt road. You walk past the yard till bus drive off. How much of us in here would wish that NHT would have considered that most of the reserve funds that was not claimed were not claimed by those same people whose children walk past the zinc fence and walk past the mud? How much of us? We move again to that fact that housing isn't defined only by the walls and the shelter, the roof. Look at Olaba now, who needs a high school with greatest import The Old Harbour shift system now have almost 1,500 per each shift. Because the housing development that happened in Old Harbour never came with the infrastructure that was needed to make adequate citizenry. This proposal is not to build a school for those communities, or to transform the schools that we have experienced, that when I go to my school now, it's the same setup as when I was in school. You go to a school in 2026. When I was at KC in 1991, it is the same setup as now. And you don't say you use NHT to improve the school infrastructure because most people go to a school closest to their yard. Are we not of that understanding that primary schools were built in walking proximity so that people could have access to adequate schooling is what we have now, where you're dividing a class with chalkboard adequate schooling? Would we on this side have been in any way not support if you were putting in that infrastructure? And then how much people taxing and go up at them yard? How much road work now in West and Eastern Westmoreland and Nova that a person have to walk half the way because no vehicle will go up there? There's a place in Northwest St. Catherine called Bermody. I wrote to the Ministry of Education that no taxi goes to Bermody. No delivery truck wants to go to the school. A 7-year-old in walking from Bermody was raped. And we don't have a schoolwork program, but we have a farm road program. So you have a farm road program, but you don't have a school road program. It is important to get out the farm goods, but it's not important to get the children there. If NHT was going to improve school roads so that those within proximity could access, none of us would have been in opposition. So selling this thing as if we are proposing that NHT money should be left in abeyance. Nothing like that is true. We on this side have gone in most cases through the suffering of inadequate housing, through the suffering of squatting community, through the suffering of inaccess to water and adequate electricity. I am saying to you, my friend, that if you were transferring some funds to rural electrification so as to appropriately carry electricity to communities that have to stretch wire, you have indicated you're taking it to the consolidated fund. And what we are saying is not the non-spending of NHT money. It is the likely misspending when it goes within the consolidated fund. So what I am saying, you can't stop me today. What I'm saying, multiple housing schemes have not received any investment in infrastructure in the longest time. Multiple houses have been lost because hydrants have not been maintained. Multiple people have suffered the indignity of being bulldozed from their houses and their property. We don't have to talk about Clifton. All we're saying on this side is that if housing is as important to you as it is to us, ring-fence housing money on behalf of housing. That's all we're saying. Both directly in the walls and the roof, and indirectly in the communities and the access to that which is humane. One way we can always quickly spend is on the basic schools that I'm carrying you to court for in very short time. Thank you.
Member from St. and Southeast.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, the Prime Minister and the Minister, my neighbor to the north, when they spoke, they gave the impression that money is no issue. There's unlimited, they didn't say that resources available to the NHD. Now, what that tells us is that we're actually in a worse place than personally I realized. Because when I look at what Melissa did to housing stock in my constituency and across the country, Prime Minister, it would seem to me that this conversation, this debate could be avoided. We should be having a more civil consultation about how we address those challenges. How is it that we move from this non-issue that we have with supplies, the inability to supply, to find solutions? How is it that we ensure, for example, that construction is done locally at community level? How is it that we ensure that the capacity is built in our institutions to deal with this supply problem? Because if we truly have the resources and we truly care about how our people are living, then we could avoid this debate. Because nobody on this side isn't saying, do not draw down. We're talking about how it's being done, we're talking about what it is going to be used for, and we're talking about the fact that it is inconsistent with the needs that we see on the ground. From Dixon to Lloydersville to Camperdown to Moneague, every house that you look at could use some support, even those that were not blown off by the hurricane. Now we're seeing the leaks, those that are covered by the tarpaulins, even the tarpaulins are falling apart. We have a serious problem, Prime Minister, and to take this money in this way without specificity about how it's going to be used is a problem. But I want to read for the House something, because I want us to understand how people are living who are unable to construct on the lands on which they live, even though some of them are NHD contributors. So imagine every year you get a notice, and in that notice it says in part, and take further notice that the reason for requiring you to cease occupation, vacate and deliver possession of and remove any fencing and or temporary structures erected on said property is that you are in illegal possession of property which is owned by the Commissioner of Lands. It goes further to say that if you fail to cease occupation, vacate and deliver up possession of the said property as required under the terms of this notice, you will be forcibly evicted. Thousands of our people every year. This is the notice that the people in Pine Walk in Beechertown, they get it every year. They panic every time. They cannot construct in a way that gives permanence. They cannot construct in a way that gives value to the land on which they live. They are given these notices every year. They are treated worse than squatters, as illegals in their own country. And so these two issues of housing and land should not be separated, because the conversation that we should be having is about how do we ensure that our people feel safe, our people have stability, our people, especially our young people, don't feel as though they have to go somewhere else in order to make a life. And Prime Minister, I know this is close to your heart, so I want to speak to this, because one of the things I see increasingly these days is young women, usually single mothers. They come, they want to start something. And it breaks my heart, because what they want to start, oftentimes they want some plyboard. They want a basement, a concrete base that they can put up 4 or 6 sheets of plyboard on to start a little house. In this day and age, we should not be subjecting our people to this. And if we're serious about the money being drawn down from the NHT to be used to ensure that we're more resilient after Hurricane Melissa, we should dedicate the money to the construction of houses. Now, while we have heard the argument that the money is because of Melissa, it's a continuation of the situation but made worse by Melissa, we notice that there is no exit plan. 5 years seems unreasonable. But in addition to that, there is nothing mentioned about how it is that it is going to be used specifically to address what Melissa has caused. But further to that, we are drawing down the same amount that we drew down before Melissa. And so the $57 billion which we are going to draw down over the next 5 years is not going to make any difference than what it has done in the past. It's not dedicated to the purpose for which you're speaking to. But, you know, the other contradiction, Mr. Speaker, the NHT contributors who were given a grant after Melissa, the grant maximum amount they could receive was $500,000. I know NHT mortgagers who lost their entire roof. That $500,000 is a drop in the bucket. It wouldn't allow them to really replace their roof. And so what we're seeing is that instead of building back in a way that allow people to be more resilient, we are building back vulnerability. A lot of our people are building back weaker, Mr. Speaker, than they were before the hurricane. And so again, I come back to the central point that we're trying to make. We're saying, you knew the position of this side because we've made it public as far as NHT funds are concerned. What the leader of the opposition was saying is that let us have a conversation because we are not stuck in a way that we would not listen to reason. We would have had a discussion that would take us to a place where we ensure that our people are better protected and that the resources of the NHT go to the purposes for which it is meant. And so I think what this is pointing us to is the need for us to have a serious discussion about how we protect our people, how we ensure that the resilience that we are aiming for is actually achieved. You know, I would love for us to actually make the time, Prime Minister, to have a discussion about this issue in a way that is free of the emotions that are in the House today, and in a way that truly put at the center the people, put people first and center as far as housing is concerned. As it is, it's not possible for us to support this bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member from Southeast St. Anne. The next time that you plan on coming here, please pay attention to section 84A, subsection 1, dress code. Read it.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the discussion here this evening is very revealing. Mr. Speaker, I see the NHT's mandate reads, National Housing Trust is to increase and improve the housing stock in Jamaica while providing affordable, low-interest financial assistance to help qualified contributors build, buy, or repair their homes. When I look at the mandate of the Housing Agency of Jamaica, it reads, to provide affordable, well-structured homes and shelter solutions for low and middle income earners while improving living standards through the formalization and regularization of informal settlements across the island. Mr. Speaker, I made those references because just 2 weeks ago, I had a meeting with the Housing Agency of Jamaica regarding some housing issues in my constituency. Lacking in infrastructure while the community is seeking to develop. And the Housing Agency made it clear to me they have no money to support any improvement of any housing settlements in Jamaica. That's what they told me. Earlier on, Mr. Speaker, I met with the chairman of the Housing Agency of Jamaica in regards to one of those very communities, made a proposal for the costed infrastructure development in that community to be funded by the National Housing Trust, with the Housing Trust holding the titles for the persons in that community as collateral, as security. And the response I got is that the Housing Trust said that they don't have any money. In fact, the chairman himself was shocked because he embraced the idea of using the titles in these communities as collateral to facilitate this development. So when I come here today and I hear that the Housing Trust is awash with money that it can't spend, that it can put it in the consolidated fund, because there is no capacity, as the Prime Minister said, to build or to respond to the housing needs. It's a bit combobulating. So, Mr. Speaker, for me to come here today and hear the Prime Minister and other members of government saying that the abundance of resources in the National Housing Trust sitting idly by, and so they're going to use it to fund the consolidated fund. Both things can't be true. You can't have this glaring need for housing funding through the Housing Agency of Jamaica by the same government, and on the other hand, the same government have a surplus of money that they are not spending to solve the problem. As my friend from Northwest St. Catherine would say, what can go so? Both things can't be true at the same time. So you know, Mr. Speaker, in it all, there is just this consolidated hypocrisy when we talk about the funding from the use of the NHD funds. That's all it is. So I want to go back to my constituents to explain to them, why is it that there is this abundance of money can't be used in the housing trust and their housing infrastructure can't be improved? I hope that I will get an answer to give them. But if I don't get them, I will know what to tell them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, in concluding the debate on the bill, I want to remind members that this afternoon we heard from Minister of Labor and Social Security, and he told us that he's distributed $10 billion for housing repairs, for persons to repair their roofs. Their roofs were destroyed by Melissa. The $10 billion is 1.4 billion shy of the NHC.
But that woman, we get to herself, man. Why you want to go rest? Why, as a corruption money sweet. But then again, she one of the guard where will try to protect Andrew, so he want them to dead on the job. She better mind herself, because boy, I don't know, man. Favor Williams, you do as much already, And you both do as much damage, education, finance, and you're still there. A spin and a spin for the Prime Minister. But I know wicked to yourself, bad, I know wicked to no rascal herself, man. And I truth. Because she doesn't try to pretend and force, She hardly can rascal her stand up. Yeah, that's a joke, Then people are really, if you just go take a check out, and rest, because them have as much money now, man. On the thief as much, on the gain as much from the system, and not doing nothing constructively. We can't say, well, then, that woman do a good job, She did do that, she did bring in that. None. When you not have. When you come out of politics, there's a thief and a lame duck. Yeah. I just hear that woman talk, man. Trust me.
NHT drawdown of $11.4 billion. And the minister also said he could use another $10 billion because there is so much need in the constituencies that have been destroyed by Melissa. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm sitting here listening to the opposition rail against the drawdown of the National Housing Trust. And I'm wondering when was the last time they visited their constituency to see the damage that is there and the need for this drawdown from the NHT to benefit those people in their constituencies. Mr. Speaker, as the persons who have already received a grant, and as those who are hoping to get a grant, listen to the opposition, they must be shaking their heads and saying, those in the opposition are out of touch with what is happening across Jamaica. Either that or they do not care about the plight of the people who have suffered from Melissa. The NHC itself, Mr. Speaker, has disbursed some $1.3 billion to 3,459 contributors, and these are grants in the amount of $500,000. They also approved some $104 million, of which 73 have been disbursed as grants. $73 million have been dispersed as grants for repairs. So, Mr. Speaker, the $11.4 billion is coming to the Consolidated Fund. But already, as I said, the Minister of Labor and Social Security indicated that $10 billion have already been spent for housing repairs. So, Mr. Speaker, the concept of a consolidated fund is that monies come into the fund and they are used accordingly for what the needs are. So the fact that we have not yet drawn down the 11.4, but we're spending $10 billion already on housing repairs shows the power of having a consolidated fund. Things do not have to be ring-fenced or earmarked. A consolidated fund gives the flexibility to move and respond to the needs of persons, even while we await for the legislation to be passed for the NHC funds to be drawn down. And so, Mr. Speaker, I ask that the debate be concluded and ask that the bill be read a second time.
The question is that the bill be read a second time. Those in favor? Those against? Ayes have it.
A bill entitled An Act to Amend the National Housing Trust read a second time.
The House will now resolve itself into a committee of the whole House to consider bill clause by clause.
Watch your bomber clad teeth in Andrew Willis, no? But like my slick boy. But like a slick boy.
I now put clause 1. Those in favor? Those against? Ayes have it. I put clause 2. Those in...
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move an amendment to clause 2. And clause 2 purports to amend section 4 of the Principal Act by inserting a new subsection 1A. And that subsection 1A would provide for $11.4 billion per annum being removed from the National Housing Trust in 5 successive fiscal years. And I wish to propose an amendment that insertion of subsection 1A be amended by deleting paragraphs C, D, and E, which would represent the years ending 2029 March, 2030 March, and 2031 March, and putting the word "and" after 2027, so that the effect of that would be that the drawdowns would be only operative for 2 fiscal years.
We're not supporting Minister, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the bill which was tabled before this Honourable House comprises 3 clauses which make provisions as follows. Clause 1 sets out the title and, hold on a second, yes. Well, Mr. Speaker, we have no amendments to the bill.
Who will support that amendment?
I now put the amendment as proposed. Those in favor?
No, that's all right. That's fine. We expected that. You said it from day one.
All right, so voting on the proposed amendment to clause 2. On the proposed amendment to clause 2. Mr. Azan. Mr. Bartlett. Mr. Brown. Dr. Brown-Burke. Mr. Buchanan. Mr. Bunting. Ms. Burchell. Dr. Campbell. Dr. Chang. Mr. Charles Jr., Mr. Chuck, Mr. Cousins, Mr. Crawford, Miss Crawford, Mrs. Cuthbert Flynn, Miss Daly, Miss Daly, Mrs. Dalrymple Philibert, Dr. Dawes, Mr. Gordon. Mr. Gordon? Mr. Golden. Ms. Grange? Mr. Green? Ms. Hamilton? Mr. Hales? No, he's here. Mr. Hales? Mr. Hines? Dr. Holness? Mr. Hilton? Mr. Jackson? Miss Jess? Miss Lee? Mrs. Malahoo Fort? Ambassador Marks? Mr. Maine? Mr. Mackenzie? Mrs. Miller Bennett? Mr. Montague? Mr. Morgan? Mr. Morris? Mr. Morris? Mr. Morrison? Miss Nita Garvey, Mrs. Nita Garvey rather. Mr. Newell? Mr. Paulwell? Mr. Phillips? Miss Perkis? Mr. Robertson? Mr. Robinson? Dr. Russell? Mr. Samuda? Mr. Seawright? Miss Shaw? Mr. Smith? Mr. Terrelong? Dr. Tufton? Mr. Vaz, Darrell Vaz that is. Mr. Dwayne Vaz? Mr. Warmington? Dr. Wheatley? Mr. Delroy Williams? Mr. Donovan Williams? Mrs. Fayeval Williams? And Mr. Witter.
Well, I mean, I tell you, so the parliament is really corrupt, you know. Parliament really corrupt, man. Because them always try to use this majority, slim majority, for outplay the PNP, you know. But the PNP have to hold tight. And have to deal with the courthouse. And so we can get them. Yeah, man. Because PNP always come up short, you know. We can see the Labour Party have failed, man. Because the money is really missing, a lot of money missing, you know. They do have the money to do certain things that pay a big talk, them attack. And lies. Write up script of lies. They must have a really somebody that write them things for them. And then they come out and look upon it and read it out and make the country feel good. But what them do? And the same thing them as fucking talk, them talk it over and over. Them talk it before. Them come on and spin it in one different way. And take people for idiot. And do I one of the rascal, skillless rascal, chess player, you know. I tell you. I'm going to say that it means in politics, you know. Yeah. No doubt about that. In politics. He's one of the most skillfulest chess player. And it works so far. And when he play in blood clot chess, if you know blood clot have no good common sense, you believe him, and I know so well, but then he can't fool me, you know. Because all the way I talk about is something we talk already. Yeah, man. Over and over and over. And then spin it, regenerate it in a different way, but at the same thing. But them mix it up and they fucking so them sell it, and the people in blood buy it. A joke. I'll break your lung, man.
Members?
No, it's okay.
On the vote, we have.
Look on this piece of shit. Eh? That boy, I want the cool rascal minded boy, this, you know. Boy, oh boy, these people, they're all the same. Cause you look on them, you know, so them is rascal, trouble, corrupted, don't fear, uneven, unbalanced. I mean, you know how blood clot people pay all them people, you know. Then again, we know cause money do it. Them get the money for fucking supply like rascal, nobody business. And that's why the money now is that them use the money, run the election, talk about them buy how much bus, so much $1 billion and rascal, whole bus and all. Now them can't get about 40 of the bus them. I don't know. 60, I think. I don't remember. Yeah. About 60 or so. How much bus them bring now? 50? Whole bus. I want them say 110. So yeah, 60 leavers. Imagine that, you know. Same with the used car them. All know the taxpayer them don't get back a penny. Just gone like in a 10 year like that. And everybody sweep it under the fucking carpet. Boy, oh boy. But you know.
23 for, 30 against, and 9 absent. We now put clause 3. We now put clause 2. We now put clause 2. Those in favor? Those against? Ayes have it. I now put clause 3.
Parliament Act, you know.
Chairman, thank you. On clause 3, I was minded to had the amendment to clause 2 been agreed by the House, then a consequential amendment to clause 3 would have been necessary to change the date from March 31, 2031, which is the end of the 5-year period of extracting the $57 billion more from the NHT, to March 31, 2028, which would have been the end of the 2-year period that we would live with. However, in light of the refusal to accept that amendment, I have nothing further to say on clause 3.
I now put clause 3. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it.
Rush and rush through the bill for fucking pass.
I now put the title enacting clause and enacting clause. Those in favor? Those against? Ayes have it. The question is that I do report the bill as having passed committee stage without any amendment. Those in favor? Those against? Ayes have it. I do report the bill as having passed committee stage without amendment. Any amendment? Minister?
Okay. Mr. Speaker, I ask for the bill to be read a third time.
I didn't hear you, madam.
Mr. Speaker, I now ask that the bill be read a third time.
The question is that the bill be now read a third time. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. Divide.
No, the ayes have it already. The divide too late. The call is too late.
On third reading, Mr. Azan. Mr. Bartlett. Mr. Bartlett. Mr. Brown. Dr. Brown Burke. Mr. Buchanan. Mr. Buchanan. Mr. Bunting. Ms. Burchell. Dr. Campbell. Dr. Chang. Mr. Charles Jr. Mr. Chuck. Mr. Cousins. Mr. Crawford. Miss Crawford. Mrs. Cuthbert Flynn. Miss Cuthbert Flynn. Miss Daly. Mrs. Dalrymple Philibert. Dr. Dawes. Mr. Golden. Mr. Gordon. Miss Grange. Mr. Green. Miss Hamilton. Mr. Hales. Mr. Hines. Dr. Holness. Mr. Hilton. Mr. Jackson. Miss Jess. Miss Lee. Mrs. Malahoo Fort. Ambassador Marks. Mr. Main. Mr. Mackenzie. Mrs. Miller Bennett. Mr. Montague. Mr. Morgan. Mr. Morris. Miss Morrison. Mrs. Nita Garvey. Mr. Newell. Mr. Paulwell. Mr. Phillips. Miss Perkis. Mr. Robertson. Mr. Robinson. Dr. Russell. Mr. Samuda. Mr. Seabright. Ms. Shaw. Ms. Shaw. Mr. Smith. Mr. Terrelong. Dr. Tufton. Mr. Darrell Vaz. Mr. Dwayne Vaz. Mr. Warmington. Dr. Wheatley. Mr. Delroy Williams. Mr. Donovan Williams. Mrs. Favor Williams. And Mr. Witter.
Yeah, man, we are taking the full procedure of Parliament, you know.
A bill entitled An Act to Amend the National Housing Trust Act read a third time and passed.
Members, we do have a couple more matters to cover tonight. Firstly, just to ask members, as we have closed the debate, to just refresh themselves of Standing Order 43-1, where one should not repeat an argument already made in a debate. It would save us tremendous time in this House. We do appreciate that members want to speak and they have been sent here by their constituents, but if you are going to add to the debate, add to the debate. And Section 43(1) makes it very clear that one is not to be persist in irrelevance, tedious repetition of his own arguments or the arguments used by other members in the debate. Please, please, members, I will ask for the recommittal of the agenda. We do have a statement and we do have a tribute that we will give today. When it reaches closer, it won't take long. The statement is...
The request is that
we recommit all the items on the agenda.
The request is that we recommit to items on the agenda. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. Statement by ministers. Announcement. Statement by ministers.
Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My statement will be very brief. At this hour, I'm sure we all will listen and then just give support. Yes. Mr. Speaker, the nation again pauses to commemorate two activities in combination, Workers' Week and Labor Day. Workers' Week celebrates Jamaican workers who, through decent, hard work, have made their contribution to the building of this nation. During this period, Mr. Speaker, we recall the struggles of our forebears for equality and basic rights under a system that was designed to extract and utilize their skills without reasonable returns. This is also a time to review how far we have come in the labor movement and to pay homage to the brave men and women who did what needed to be done to give us the rights, privileges, and benefits we have today. While 1938 stands out as the start of the labor movement, led by Sir Alexander Bustamante, we should never forget the determination.
Look on these two old criminals, no? Them two old criminals, woman, are tough, terrible, them, you know. We know about Babsy Grange. We know about Dalrympe Pro. I wish you had the fucking name. She's a criminal. And, you know, she should never, well, the two of them should never in a blood clot parliament. In any civilized country, they must have a blood clot, their woman in a rocking chair or something. Yeah, man. Yeah, no civil hungry that Jamaica, them things can't happen. Everybody know the record of blood clot Babsy Grange. What happened to her? With gangster. And this a woman the other day convicted and have to resign. Two big disgrace, them two old bag, you know, and them in a parliament. So okay, blood clot Jamaica better.
Of people such as Sam Sharp, Paul Bogle, Taki and others who rose up against forced labor and helped future generations see that inequity in the workplace was unacceptable. But we also use this opportunity.
The fucking empty talk you talk right here, so because the woman that dead where police kill Bujo. You know, come out, come Ross lad, even say M, and you are the woman gender minister and all these fuckery. You know, condemn the Ross lad police. Which is me know not go do that. But not even a word. On some big blood clot disgrace.
Unity, Mr. Speaker.
Big old crocodile disgrace, you know, like old woman. Believe you me.
To recognize more recent champions in the fight for workers' rights. This year, we honor two of those modern voices. First among them is the late Honorable Lyndon Gladstone Newland, former Minister of Labour and National Insurance, whose contribution to the concept of Social Security is legendary. We have agreed to name the National Insurance Building of the Ministry of Labour and Social Security at National Hero Circle, the Lyndon Gladstone Newland Building, in recognition and celebration of his selfless service in raising his voice on behalf of the poor and vulnerable Jamaican workers. This year, we also honor a woman who toiled ceaselessly and untiringly for the upliftment of Jamaican workers, the Most Honorable Portia Simpson Miller, former Prime Minister of Jamaica and a former Minister of Labour. In recognition of...
I look on him rascal to old bag here too, you know. I look on Bob's Grange, I say a year. It's not really a week that, you know. And that's why Dalrymple people look on her like that, because Dalrymple people have on a rascal old-fashioned wig. You can't see that. But Bob's Grange, when I look on her, what them do, I glue on the rascal thing there, you know, so it look like it, you know what I mean? Because remember, you know, Bob's Grange have all different silver, you know, from a longer time, you know. So, what them do, them dye it, glue it, put on a thing. Yeah, man, but she get a good little hairstyle of it. I'm bigger up on that still. But you know, I find the secret. I see the secret straight. But the next one side her now, that is a whole cheap wig shop on. Yo, let me tell you something. Them people, I think them can't fool people, you know. Yo, you can't just read through them, man. And bore some hole and them fuck with them. They think them can't blood clot from my thing. Yeah, man.
A voice raised out of concern for the dignity and elevation of the Jamaican working class, we have agreed to name...
All Dalrymple people are doing, you know. My sister look at the week she look on, you know, she has a blood clot. Oh, Bobby so hot. She have to try something too. Because comparing Bob's hairstyle to she, watch her how she look on Bob's.
Name the main building of the Ministry of Labour and Social Security at 1F North Street in her honor, the Portia Simpson Miller Building. The renaming of both will take place on Tuesday, May 26th at a function being hosted by the Minister of Labour and Social Security. The planning and implementation of activities for Workers' Week and Labor Day underscores the benefits of interministerial collaboration. I thank colleague ministers and their teams for the working relationship through the Labor Day Secretariat located in my ministry, and I refer especially to the Ministers of Labour and Social Security and the Minister of Local Government and Community Development, as well as the Jamaica Defence Force, which oversees the logistics. Labor Day, which culminates Workers' Week, is a celebration of voluntary service and commitment, especially to the most vulnerable among us. Of significance this year will be the first Workers' Week and Labor Day after the devastating Hurricane Melissa of October 2025. And as a people, we are still rebuilding stronger from that catastrophic experience, which has been made bearable by the many gestures of love and support Jamaicans everywhere and from people, governments, and organizations across the world. Today, a grateful nation says thanks again to all who have been there with us. Within this context of this severest of disasters that we have endured in our history, the government is especially encouraging Jamaicans to put work into this Labor Day as we continue to rebuild stronger. This year, we are calling the nation to pay special focus on the restoration of sports, early childhood, and community facilities in our work on Labor Day. The National Secretariat has identified 2 national projects this year. One of these projects is the Lewistown Early Childhood Institution in St. Elizabeth. The school was severely damaged by the disastrous Hurricane Melissa. As a National Labor Day project, there will be significant work to restore the institution to safety, comfort, and enhance resilience. One of the principal tasks of government is to ensure that our children, in particular, the most vulnerable younger ones, are provided with real opportunities to learn, to enjoy their schooling and life in general, and feel protected by the adults around them. So we welcome all to work alongside us at Lewistown Early Childhood Institution on Labor Day. And of course, the Prime Minister will be there, and the Leader of the Opposition is being invited to also join, as usual, in the Labor Day initiatives. The other national project is Sabina Park in Kingston, a significant space in the modern history of Jamaica. As we prepare for the return of the Caribbean Premier League to Jamaica and to host the West Indies home series against Sri Lanka, there is need to undertake significant work at the historic site to, 1, ensure the success of the competitions, and 2, that we continue to build Jamaica's reputation as a place of choice to watch, participate in, and discuss sports. The work at Sabina Park includes site clearance, general landscaping and beautification, painting, minor remedial works, enhancing user safety, and overall visitor experience. Each year, we are pleased with the enthusiasm displayed across Jamaica as people of all ages everywhere get involved in projects as we put work into Labor Day. All across Jamaica, we see people engaged in painting, bushing, fixing and remodeling infrastructure, cleaning drains, beautifying or creating community parks and recreation centers, upgrading basic schools and kindergarten spaces, including even targeting the elderly by creating new homes or fixing old homes. For all of this, we give thanks to the various stakeholders, including the ministries, departments, and agencies, members of Parliament here who are being encouraged to be in your constituency and to initiate and support community projects. So the mayors and councillors, churches, civil organizations, youth clubs, service clubs, police clubs, businesses and institutions, and individuals. It is a joy to see across the length and breadth of Jamaica our people engage in serving each other, especially the weak and vulnerable. I'm also heartened by some organizations that have taken on what they have called pre-Labor Day projects. Some of these are people who do some earlier work before Labor Day as part of the effort to finish their project on the day. Today, I want to especially highlight the Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs for using the concept of the pre-Labor Day project to do significant retrofitting of the reading room at Catherine Hall Primary and Infant School in St. James today and tomorrow. Now, under the law, Labor Day will be observed on Monday, May 25, which will be the public holiday, as the 23rd falls on a Saturday. But On May 23, we will, however, have wreath-laying ceremonies in honor of Sam Sharp, who was martyred on that day. And so one such wreath-laying will be at his shrine in Heroes Park, and the other in Sam Sharp Square, led by Mayor Vernon. The theme for Labor Day is One People, One Purpose in all things Jamaica wins. Also wish to announce that members of Parliament, and I'm sure they have been already advised, will each be given $900,000 for the implementation of projects from your CDF. Existing CDF. We also commend private sector entities that contribute to projects, including the contribution of kind, such as pay. We're asking that all projects be registered with the Jamaica Information Service. There's a registration form on the JAS website, and we also have a link to the registration page on the website of the ministry. So, as usual, after a hard day of voluntary service, we will gather at Emancipation Park for a Labor Day praise and worship concert as we give thanks to the Almighty Father for a day well spent in fellowship within and service to the Jamaican family. And I'm encouraging communities across Jamaica, after the work is done, to just gather and have some fun. So, Mr. Speaker, as I close, one people, one purpose in all things Jamaica wins is not just a slogan. It is the beating heart of who we are as Jamaicans. It captures our...
Go and fuck yourself, you little old butt. You shall speak of them blood clot words there. And the woman dead and she no come out and make a statement and condemn it and not like that. I know you shut out now. I'm going to say all them blood clot now since there's some hypocrite them, you know. One this, one that, one Jamaica, one this. And you is a blood clot woman, you the minister for fucking woman, right? You have so much rascal ministry on your belt. But woman gender, now you. And look how them deal with the rascal woman, and you know come out in a parliament, come make a big statement, but you come and chat now. Them people are, you know, that's why I say, you know, sometimes it's boy, I tell you, you know, it grieves me heart to blood clot. You're a woman, and you shall talk of these things in the parliament and don't utter one word of even condolence to the blood clot woman, the police brutalize and murder. Can't listen to them people and take them serious, man. Eh?
Our unbreakable resilience, our unshakable unity, and our fierce determination. When we stand together as one people with one purpose, there is no storm, there is no challenge, there is no obstacle too great for us to conquer. We have proven it time and time again. Last year, Hurricane Melissa came like a thief in the night and tested our nation to its core. Communities were battered, school damaged, sporting facilities torn apart, and homes left in ruins. But true to our Jamaican character, that indomitable spirit passed down from our ancestors, we rolled up our sleeves, wiped the sweat from our brows, and said, not today, we will rebuild. And rebuild we did.
You heard somebody talk, now look what people are suffer. Eh? And a 7 month now, and you shall come with a sweet talk. We will rebuild. And she is sleeping in a nice, clean, big house and big bed. Then people talk something and then they don't even know when my blood clot talk, say, you know. Because them check say everybody is idiot like them. You don't want to talk. She don't mean a word what she say. Firstly, she's supposed to come out and say something towards the woman to lose her life. And then you know, say, well then you couldn't say, well then, yeah, she has said something, but no. Not one rascal beat out her mouth. So you tell me now. Eh? What the fuck is that? Them woman of them rascal falls, just say, they're so fucking false.
And continue to do so. And so I invite all parliamentarians and the people of Jamaica to let us unite on Labor Day and ensure that we assist those who need our help most. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I would like to join with the Minister in giving full support with both nominees. And just to say that in respect to the most Honorable Portia Simpson-Miller, I hope this is the beginning, as the first female Prime Minister of Jamaica, that we start looking at some of her legacy and rename them after her. But I believe it's a step in the right direction. Congratulations, and we will be giving as much support as possible in going forward.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to welcome the announcements by Minister Grange. She has named Mr. Lindell Gladstone Newland and the Honorable Portia Simpson-Miller. Naming of the buildings, I welcome that. I want to go a little further in asking that a bust of the Honorable Portia Simpson-Miller be placed at the building that's been commissioned. Thank you very much. I want to also welcome Workers' Week and to congratulate again the IDT on their 50th.
Sorry. The member would have to ask questions. There can only be one response from a spokesperson. The member would have to ask questions. Makes sense? That too. Since I'm on my feet, Mr. Speaker, the time now being 7:20, we ask that the House be allowed to sit beyond 7:30.
The request is on the floor. Those in favor? Those against? Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Member, as is stated, you are to ask questions.
Okay. Can the minister tell the House when will the Ministry of Gender, Entertainment and Sport be allocating some funds for Labor Day for each constituency? First question. Can the minister inform the House if after the 25th of May on the actual work of Labor Day at Sabina Park, will the minister be continuing the works in preparation of us hosting international and regional cricket? That's the second question. And you're doing very well today when you were sleeping. Can the minister state the timeline as to when the Honorable Portia Simpson-Miller's bust will be unveiled at the ministry's building? Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can the minister just clarify to the people who are viewing that this $900,000 is an increase on the regular $500,000 usually available for Labor Day and not coming out of the $20 million and not additional funds being provided for Labor Day?
Minister, you may want to respond.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First, I will respond to the question regarding Sabina Park. Just to indicate that Sabina Park is in an extremely bad condition. It really needs a lot of repairs and a facelift. The murals that we have on the wall, we are going to be refreshing those murals, and we will continue the work. We are doing pre-Labor Day work on Labor Day and post-Labor Day, so we can get Savannah Park.
Them want to use Labor Day now for people to come do the work for them and keep the money in them pocket, and then them come out with that bill when them do little work on it and say, well, then, it costs so much millions. When that's why them are promoted like this. You know? They want some free work for done. And people so fucking fool. People should never blood clot you see, under this government when them deal with it now. Because them are trying to look help. So when people go out there now and do all them rascal things now, them come with a bill and say, well then it costs this because them do a little work and a few workmen on it and say it costs a bag of money. When really Labor Day, labor, people come out and do it free. So this government has a blood clot, ink pan nail, each up on people like a chink and get away with it because this is the one next generalship again. People now really pick up them things there, you know. Yeah. You know,
facilities in better condition. And of course,
and them have the money to spend.
While we're doing that, we're also doing our research to see what are the commitments that were made previously, the arrangements in terms of the management of Savannah Park, what is the situation with Savannah Park Holdings, where the shareholders included Jamaica Cricket Association and Kingston Cricket Club, because that is a very untidy situation. So we are focusing on Savannah Park in all the areas that need to be sorted out. Regarding the bust of the Most Honorable Portia Simpson Miller, it has been commissioned. I can't say specifically at this time when the work will be completed. Lyndon Newland's bust was commissioned, the work was completed, and it was mounted last year. So the Most Honorable Portia Simpson Miller's bust, as soon as it is completed, it will also be mounted. I think that covers the questions, you're right. Well, I really don't allocate funds. The CDF is not under my control. And as is customarily done, the allocation over the years have come out of the CDF. But
the CDF, Andrew Wallace have that on a ministry as well, and I'm poking Prime Minister office the same day. He have 29 rascal minister and him belt, you know. Especially we control the money. Right. That bomber clad boy, yes, man, may I tell you.
Are given special approval to use funds from your CDF to do the Labor Day work. It's community work, so it's normal, it's natural.
Yes, community work because I want the people to do the work free. And then they come and put out a bill and say it costs much million and they'll get rich again. That's what I do Jamaican people. I use them and them can't blood clot seed. They might get some little trap-ons. I want to get rascal. Yo, me tell you something, man. These people know to blood clot, use them own people, you know, and make them suffer more and more and do it in a sykes. And if people are sensible and bore some all night and drill through it, then we'll never see the truth. And I can't dare so no sister that them a try to build up. I said them promote this Labor Day now because them not have money and they want to thief more money. I want people to work free and call it in the good name of Labor Day. Fuck that. We're two bomber clad general, man. I'm going to come with every fucking general out of trick out of the book.
For you to draw on your CDF. It's just that it's approved, and a larger amount is approved this year. Last year, it was 500,000. This year, it's 900,000. Thank you.
House Leader. Announcements.
Laid on the table of the House are the following. Annual report of the Ministry of Labour and Social Security for the financial year 2024-2025. Integrity Commission's investigation report into concerns that Mr. Carl Walker, a clerk of works formerly employed to the National Housing Trust, failed to file his statutory declaration with the Commission for the year 2023, contrary to law and its indicative ruling.
Sir Ed.
Integrity Commission's investigation report into concerns that Ms. Karine Green, a loans officer employed to the National Housing Trust, failed to file her statutory declaration with the Commission for the year 2023, contrary to law and its indicative ruling. Integrity Commission's investigation report into concerns that Ms. Corinne Henry, a loans officer employed to the National Housing Trust, failed to file her statutory declaration with the Commission for the year 2023, contrary to law and its indicative ruling. Integrity Commission's investigation report into concerns that Mr. Kashif Ford, a programmer analyst employed to the Information and Communication Technology Authority, failed to file his statutory declaration with the Commission for the year 2023, contrary to law and its indicative ruling.
Mr. Speaker, I have a query, because I gather that yesterday the Parliament issued a statement on behalf of the Parliament about a matter that was supposed to have been tabled in the Parliament in March 30. But I find it strange that the report, the comments from the Parliament was not signed, and it indicated that the Parliament had issued a statement. Now, I would think if the Parliament is issuing a statement, certainly the leader of government business and myself would be aware of what the statement is, and after consultation, whether endorsed or not. I find it strange that a statement was issued yesterday without any level of consultation at all. And also, I find it strange that the statement purported to overturn a decision that the Speaker made on this matter in November of 2023. I'm sure the House Leader would be aware and would want to indicate really what happened yesterday, why was such a statement issued, why we were not informed, and why is there now a retraction of the position which I thought was quite clear in November 2023.
House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I would have to do some checks in relation to the statement. Clearly, the statement would have emanated from somebody with due authority under the Houses of Parliament to make such a statement. So I would have to, again, I think we know I will have to do some checks in relation to the statement of the statement that was indicated. Outside of the statement, I don't see any retraction of the position of the Speaker. That has not arisen on this matter at all. And I think that's as far as I will go on this matter. I don't see a retraction. I see consistency in relation to how matters are treated in this regard. I see a member also has an intervention.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is an inconsistency because in the background to this is that there was considerable controversy toing and froing for a long time on delays in the tabling of reports coming to Parliament from the Auditor General and the Integrity Commission. That culminated in the Speaker, I think on November 11th, 2023, issuing her position on that matter. And I'm going to read from that. And I quote, reports of the Director of Investigation submitted under Section 54, subsection 4, and that's of the Integrity Commission Act, will be tabled as soon as possible after receipt by the Parliament. having regard to the serious nature of the matters that are contained therein. It will be requiring the immediate and direct attention of the House. After it is tabled, it will then be submitted to the Integrity Commission Oversight Committee for their consideration and report. And I add in parentheses, at that point it would be a public document that the media, the whole of Jamaica, and all parliamentarians would have had the benefit of being able to see. I continue. Kindly note, all reports from the Integrity Commission will be reviewed by the officers before they're tabled, and it will be tabled in the soonest possible time. No effort will be made to delay such reports. End of quote. That was the Speaker's ruling. This report concerning the Firearms Licensing Authority, a public body that has most serious statutory functions, came to this House on March 30, 2026. The cover letter from the Integrity Commission said that the report contains serious matters concerning governance, maladministration, corruption, etc. We are now in mid-May, and that report has not been tabled today. Reports that came to Parliament on Thursday last week, 4 of them, about relatively junior public servants who didn't comply with their statutory declaration filing deadlines. Those have been tabled today. But a most serious report has not been. Parliament allegedly says because the FLA brought proceedings in court, that is relevant to this decision. But in the Ian Hales matter, the court definitively said that the tabling of reports or any other document in Parliament is a matter which is immune from any kind of jurisdiction of the courts. And there's no court order, and there could not properly be any court order affecting the tabling of this report. So this is a most serious matter. We are sure that that report contains very serious matters that the public, the opposition, the media has a right to see and wants to see. And yet we see it being suppressed by the delay in tabling it. And that is untenable. The whole purpose and objective of the Integrity Commission Act is thwarted and undermined if the work of the Integrity Commission, its investigative work culminating in its reports, are sent to Parliament and are not tabled on a timely basis. This is affecting the democracy of the country, the governance of the country, and the public have a right to see it. And we demand that it be tabled today.
Mr. Speaker, the opposition's characterizations are most unfortunate for somebody who holds his office. There is absolutely no suppression, there is absolutely no undermining, and there's absolutely no infringement on our democracy. And I will indicate why quite clearly. As the opposition leader indicated, the Speaker has said that the report, any report, will be tabled at the earliest possible time after a review is done. It is clear, as was done in the Ian Hales' matter, which treated with a member of the opposition, where the matter was brought before the court, that report was not tabled by this Parliament until that matter was resolved. Why was that the case? That is the case because the standing orders make it extremely clear that where there are matters under 16G5 that are likely to prejudice a case, 6G5, that are likely to prejudice a case which is under trial, and under 35(2), any matter on which a judicial decision is pending, then we are not to treat with that matter, or we prejudice the matter. It would make no sense that this Parliament would do something as learned King's Counsel said. It would make no sense that this Parliament would do something that would then take away the power from another arm of government, right? So, the leader of the opposition is quite aware that this is how we proceeded with Member Hales. This is nothing new. This is no suppression. if it was good at that time for him and no issue was raised by the opposition in 2017 when this government, I'll say it again, and the member from Eastern, the member from Eastern Westmoreland waxed eloquently earlier about hypocrisy. In 2017, no issue was raised by the opposition when the matter involving Member Hales, when that report was not tabled by this Parliament. The right decision was made then. That decision is being made now. And I ask that we proceed to public business. And another thing, there is no, we have spoke on this matter, but you have been kind, Speaker, but there is no debate on this matter. This is not an opportunity. This is not how, if a debate is to be had, the leader of the opposition would have to move an appropriate motion, right? We have the leader of government, the leader of opposition business has intervened. The leader of the opposition has intervened. The government has responded. This is not a space for a debate.
Of order. On a point of order. The leader of government business in the House is misleading the House on this matter, and it must be corrected. The question of Ian Hale's case is very relevant. The final ruling, the only substantive ruling in that case, was a reasoned and written judgment. And the court ruled that the Speaker of the House and the President of the Senate would have been acting intra vires, in other words, within their powers, by tabling the report submitted by the OCG, as it then was. Their actions would be categorized as Parliament conducting their internal affairs, and as such, their actions would be immune to the jurisdiction of the court. I find that the Speaker of the House and the President of the Senate were improperly joined to the application for leave as interested parties. It is abundantly clear that a public body like the FLA should not be able to throw a cloak of secrecy over a public... My point of order.
You rose on a point of order, but you're making a presentation.
Yeah, I'm completing my point of order.
Member.
I'm completing my point of order.
No member that cannot be allowed.
I'm completing my point of order.
No member that cannot be allowed. You're making a presentation. You would have raised your point of order to the point. Now you're making a presentation. So we're not going to allow that.
I'm responding to the point of order. I'm responding to the point of order. I am responding to the point of order. What the leader of the opposition has said is that the court has indicated that it is in the purview of the Parliament. That is what the court has indicated. The court has not said that you must table. The court has said that the Parliament has the right to decide. And I'm saying the Parliament decided that where the matter is before the court, as per the standing orders, if you were to prejudice that matter, then we will leave it alone. It's as simple as that.
We are not going to entertain a debate. It's not a matter of debate. I don't wish to do that because it is going to open the floodgate for others to ask questions. No, I am not convinced, member. Member, I am not convinced. At this time, I am not convinced. I am not convinced. I am not convinced, member. Bills brought by the Senate. Petitions. Papers. Report from committees. Notice of motion given orally. Question and answers to questions. Motion that may be made at the commencement of public business requiring notices. Motion relating to the sitting of the House. Motion for leave to introduce bills. Presentation of bills without leave of the House first obtained. Public business.
Yeah, people, that's how we see it end, you know. Opposition end up walking out on them. And then before that, Dayton Campbell done them. Isaac Buchanan, the same thing. Them get a hard beating today. And it's supposed to shame like a dog. No matter what you see them go on. So, opposition do a good job today. One thing I look for see and hear, all of them come out and condemn the shooting of the lady. So I don't understand that part there. But anyway, I just said there, man, the government just a recycle thing. Recycle. And that's all it is. Nothing more beside recycling. The same argument over and over again. And the people them who no sense, people followers them now look on them things there now. Them just say, yeah, and not really a check for themselves. Now think for themselves. Them people that think for them. Yeah, man. Make them think for them. Anyway, we leave them to them one. And we out of here. We gone. Out.
A big sound up here, big tune. Ja holy Emmanuel, boy. Ja Gideon, I'm a Gideon. The Gideon, I'm a Gideon. The Gideon, I'm a Gideon. Well, Gideon go busting out them head again. So much oppression poor people face right now. Them crying out for freedom. Them crying out for free speech. Then said them want to stand up like them black liberators, like Malcolm X and Martin Luther and the ancient monarchy where come pave the way, sir. Free up black people from it, tear down them fence, yeah. Gideon, I'm a Gideon. The Gideon, I'm a Gideon. The Gideon, I'm a Gideon, well, the Gideon go busting out them head. I listen, I the power of the Trinity. Give us the teaching of His Majesty, and we know war, not devil philosophy. Not tentacle for man's skin is of no more significant well to the color of his eye. Remember all the war long in 1935.
This is Sticky Stucky Sweet TV with Keith Gargan. Good, healthy food with the X Factor. So give it a like, share, subscribe, and touch up that notification bell. And that is it. Look at that.
Блядь, я закричу.